So this is the Halloween special of Create the Culture videos, so it only makes sense to start off with a Halloween joke. Why do skeletons have low self-esteem? They have no body to love. Do you hear that, Chris?
No.
So I was trying to think of what a good Halloween themed video would be, and it made sense to me. I was like taking off the mask, you know, like Halloween costume, people wear masks. It makes sense, right? But a big problem that I've had, and I actually started going to a social worker like a year and a half ago, and I had this problem where I'd put up this mask to people, and it was causing me to have like a lot of like suppressed emotions, a lot of like anxiety and insecurities that were getting unresolved. And what I want to talk about in this video is how is it that we start to be authentically ourselves, and how do we take off that mask so other people see it? Let's see. During a lot of my youth, and especially in high school, I really struggled with trying to become what I thought other people would value. So I was kind of changing, or in a sense, putting on a lot of different masks and personas of what I thought other people would want to see. And this really had a lot of shallow relationships and stuff that followed because no one really knew who I was. Now the problem is that a lot of these people were not going to validate who I thought I possibly was. And eventually this mask kind of became who I was, and I didn't really know what was behind it. So then going to the social worker, we started to discover all these insecurities I had and these anxieties that were so pressed down because I never really let them come up and surface and let them pass. And now that I've started dealing with a lot of these insecurities and like letting these things come up and being almost like unlayering what's like inside of me, I'm starting to be able like to show other people more and more of who I am. And part of it's because I'm also discovering who I am inside of that. I want you to take a minute really quick and I want to ask you a few questions. First, I want to ask you, like, are you happy? And sit with that question now and think about it. I'm not meaning this like in a pleasurable sense. Are you thinking in your life at times, well, I'll be happy when? And are you looking to a different part of your life thinking, well, that's when you're going to get there? Or do you have like this restlessness as you're going through this day? Or these insecurities that are really affecting you? And not necessarily all the time, but like let's say someone makes a comment to you, you know, it might be about like your nose or height, anything like that. I do have a big nose. I'll give you a side. I've heard a lot of jokes a time or two. Side note. I went to this Asian market like 2 or 3 weeks ago with Father David, and we're there, and there's at one point this like Asian kid that comes up to me. I think he was like the owner's kid, or the two owners' kids come up, and the one's probably like 3rd or 4th grade, the other's probably 5th or 6th, and the kid's trying to say something to me. I'm not really understanding what he's saying. And he's like, I finally understand, and he says, your nose looks like Gru. Like the Gru from the Despicable Me movies that has like the Pinocchio nose. Here, I'm going to do a side by side so you can see this.
If that isn't authenticity, I don't know what is.
Okay, so back to your self-awareness questions that I was talking about. But think about this for a second. It's like, what are these things that you've been allowed like you get pushed down? And all of us probably have something, no matter whatever path we're on. And so it's like, let these things surface as they come. But maybe you've had things that have just been suppressed for such a long time. Now, while you're thinking about this, be honest with yourself. And really, are you happy? It's like, is this restlessness there? Are you fine with this restlessness being there? Or are you wanting to receive this peace that you actually desire? Do you even think that this peace is possible? That's a whole other question. And for a long time, I just thought this eventually became a part of life. I just thought that I was stuck with this anxiety. But there was something more. And I know that there's something more for you. And if you're holding on to this, allow this to start surfacing. Now, be honest with God. And when being honest with God, if you don't believe in God, tell God that. Be honest with yourself. He wants you to see this part of you. Or maybe you have this idea that you have to impress God. And discard that idea. You do not have to impress God. God wants to see all parts of you. So you do not need to hold anything back from that. And inside of that, you can now start to understand where you're at. And now have this idea of where do you want to be at? Because There is a confident version of you that does exist, or that can exist. But you have to allow yourself to get there. And once you're being honest with yourself and being authentic with yourself and taking off this mask, saying, I'm confident when I'm really not, now you can start to be authentic with the people around you. Because one of the hard things that I had is that I wasn't being honest with myself for so long. Especially in high school. I wanted everyone to think I was confident. I wanted everyone to have these perceptions. I wanted everyone to have these perceptions of me. But the hard thing was it was not reality. And it created this large disconnect, or this big resistance in me really coming to know or starting to be confident with who I was. Now we need to understand, why is it that we want to put up this mask in the first place? So we put up the mask because there's some sense of insecurity or like a fear of rejection that can happen. Because honestly, being yourself can be terrible at times because you are opening yourself up to rejection. The reason I changed with all these different people I was with was because it was safe. It gave me confidence knowing that I was being accepted, but it wasn't a confidence that could be sustained. And especially a shallow confidence, because I knew I wasn't really being authentic to how I felt. I was not necessarily even being real with the answers I had. I'm being completely serious when I say, I think it was like a year and a half ago, I figured out what my favorite color was. 100%. If you would have asked me what my favorite color was, I would have told you whatever I thought you would have thought a cool color would be. Now I know my favorite color is blue. But I think it's because it's my mom's. No, actually, hers is orange. So now with this recognition of why we put up the mask, we now need to find what is the true source of our confidence. Because the big thing with me continually taking off the mask, or almost even discovering more of myself, is the more my confidence is sourced in the ultimate source, the easier it is for me to be vulnerable, because I'm not opening myself up to that rejection. It's not going to hurt me now when someone doesn't accept me, or at least to the level that it would have. So finding the true source is going to God. And you're going to hear this over and over and over from probably anyone that talks about faith stuff, or at least is being authentic about faith stuff. And you're going to find that source of confidence in prayer. And it's going to fill you up and start to recenter your mind on what actually matters. Because the reality is that it doesn't matter that my nose is so big. Like, I can smell better than probably all of you watching this. And this is something I can say with a lot of confidence, is that as you're starting to be an authentic version of yourself, you are probably going to start getting rejected more and possibly persecuted. And this honestly happens all the time. In high school, there was a lot of girls that expressed interest in me that would never now. And it's because I'm now staying founded in who I am and not adjusting to what I think that they will like. And I talk about persecution as Paul the Apostle, and he was persecuted because he was being the most authentic version of himself. He was being who he was created to be as a follower of Christ. And that's maybe not to that extent of being beheaded. Is that going to happen to you or to me? But in these different small ways, in like the life chain, I was telling Chris before this, it's like when you stand on the side of the road and you are standing up for those that can't stand for themselves and being pro-life, there's people that say terrible things to you on the streets. But it's honestly, it's very rewarding in that sense that you're getting persecuted for the right thing. And so as these different obstacles come into your life, be grateful in a sense, or be grateful or be honored that you are now getting persecuted for being yourself and ultimately becoming and helping other people become the authentic versions of themselves. Because authenticity is contagious. And the result of this all is going to be deeper friendships than you ever could have imagined. There's people that I was friends with for years that seemed to have friendships that I thought were strong, but then were nothing in comparison to these friendships that formed so quickly and so deeply because that they were founded in Christ. And it was because of this mutual authenticity that happened. And it's going to be crazy too, even how people will respond to this authenticity. Because some people might reject you, but some people, that's just going to help them to open that door that they've always wanted to open for themselves. If you've enjoyed this video, I encourage you to like the Facebook page or subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm going to continuously have video content coming out. What? So I do encourage you to connect with the Create the Culture videos. If you have any questions or you'd like to talk to me personally, my email is left in here, vaguely, somewhere in that vicinity. There's that weird laugh again.
Okay, I'm with the beat now.